Let's do this. Okay, Kaitlynn, good morning.
Good morning.
Guten Morgen, as they say. So, I've never met you before, but you have agreed to to get on this webinar call with me because I don't know anything about Ansbach, and I know there's a lot of people out there that probably are in the same boat, maybe getting ready to move over there or want to move over there, but just have no idea what to expect. So, what I want to do is just go over some preliminary questions. Okay, so we can start with the first question, which is the easiest question. Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? Who'd you come here with? Tell me all about yourself.
My name is Kaitlynn Steen, and I am also a military brat. So I moved all over as a kid, but my parents retired in the Midwest. I came here with my husband. He's a JAG officer at Ansbach, and I'm a stay-at-home mom and recent substitute teacher at the elementary school.
How many kids you got?
We have 2 little boys, kindergarten and 2nd grade.
Okay, nice. And how long have you guys been in Ansbach?
We've only been here for a year. That's kind of the trade for JAGs. They usually only have like 2 years at an assignment. So we're finishing up our second
even
year.
Overseas.
It's very rare for them to get to stay somewhere for more than 2 years.
Okay, I see. And is this your guys' first time in Germany?
It is my second time. When I was a kid, I lived in Wiesbaden for 4 years. But for our family, yes, it's the first time in Germany.
Okay, gotcha. And how has the transition been? I mean, you're a year in now, so I'm sure the dust is settled. Like, how did all that go?
I love living overseas, so I was pumped for it. I had the experience of Wiesbaden and my husband did not. So the first time that he went to Graf, he texted me and he said, "Man, I feel like we kind of got gypped on Ansbach." And he was like, Ansbach is very small compared to the other bases in Germany. So,
do you know how many people are there?
Yes. So according to the Googles, it is 12,000 soldiers, family members, civilians, and retirees.
Okay.
So if you wanted to just put a rough ballpark out there, you could say 4,000 soldiers maybe. But it is growing. Since we've been here, a whole new ADA battalion has stood up here. A whole brigade headquarters has stood up here. And the half of a brigade that's here, which is the CAB, the aviation brigade, is going to grow to a full-size cab within the next few years. So Ansbach was also in a very weird spot because they were supposed to close down for a long time, and then at the last minute it was saved. So the money's slowly getting turned back on to try to accommodate all the units now being templated to move here or to stay here.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. And then what about the civilian population? Are there a lot of civilians that work there on the base?
Just because of the base's size, I'll say there's not a lot. From what I hear, Stuttgart and Wiesbaden, because they're big headquarters kind of areas, there's lots of civilian contractors and things there. But lately, just because of the influx of the base and how money is starting to slowly get turned back on, you do see a lot of civilians posting in the spouses group looking for houses.
Right.
And that's always more difficult because civilians are the only ones, with a few exceptions, allowed to live off post.
Yeah.
You have to be a single officer, a civilian, and I think there's an exception for CID, but I can't be sure about that get to live off post. And the civilian area is not really built to accommodate a lot of people living off post. So teachers, for instance, even have to spend a long time in the hotel looking for a place when they come here.
I see. Yeah. And do they do the Plane to Pillow initiative over there? They're doing that over here where you your sponsor will show you 2 or 3 homes and you pick one before you come over, and then as soon as you arrive, they send you straight to your house.
They try, but it doesn't always work out in practice. So because of the influx of people, I think housing is really experiencing for the first time that they do have to keep people in lodging.
Okay.
And we have a very small hotel because the base has always been very small, and sometimes people have to stay in lodging while they wait for their house. Another thing that they will do, though, is they'll put you in a temporary house sometimes, and with the temporary furniture until your permanent house.
Oh, a temporary government house.
Yes. So I'm kind of skipping ahead, so I apologize.
Yeah, no, it's okay. We're gonna kind of go in a bunch of questions. It's fine.
There's a neighborhood that's duplex oriented, and they will usually have houses that haven't quite been prepped for your permanent stay there, but they'll give you the keys to let you stay there for a few weeks until the permanent house. So maybe you qualify for a 4-bedroom and you really want to wait for the 4-bedroom. Sometimes they'll put you in like a 3-bedroom that's kind of deemed okay for you to stay in for a few weeks before they move you into your 4-bedroom.
Okay, cool. We'll get there because there's a lot to talk
Okay.
about with housing.
Yes.
Let's back up a little bit. From the perspective of, I've never been to Germany. I know nothing about small town Bavaria. How do I even pronounce Ansbach? Let's talk about just some of the things that people can expect as soon as they get to Ansbach. Like, where is it at? And how do you get there? That type of thing. So like when you guys first got here, did you guys come Patriot Express? Did you guys go commercial?
Okay, so we came commercial because we have a dog.
Okay.
If you have a pet, you usually have to get a reservation for your pet on the Patriot Express months in advance.
Way
And
cheaper.
if you get orders like considered late in the game, you can't schedule that flight months in advance. So at that point, they authorize you for commercial. This is I happen to know this because I'm married to the JAG, but like there's a rule that says you can be picked up in a government TMP when you arrive to Germany. So, if you have a good sponsor, if you have good communication on the ground, they can usually arrange to pick you up at the airport when you arrive commercially and bring you to Ansbach. That's one of the frustrating logistical points of moving to Germany is you're authorized all this extra baggage and you want to pack to the max because your stuff is going to take so long to get here, even with all those shipments that you're authorized. But it's frustrating to think through the logistics of how do I get all of that baggage to the Patriot Express or on a TMP, like what size TMP am I going to have when they come and pick me up if I'm carrying a big dog crate and all the bags that were allowed. So that's just a lot of fighting with, not necessarily fighting, but just like you have to be really annoying and pestering and say, what vehicle are you coming to get me in? If you're in the Patriot Express, they'll put you all on the bus at Ramstein, and then you can expect a very long bus ride immediately after flying.
I don't recommend that.
To get down to Ansbach, because Ansbach is so small. So they're going to hit up the bigger places that are closer to Ramstein first. Ansbach is about 3 hours southeast of Ramstein. So they kind of go in a big circle of where can they drop off the most people on the Patriot Express first. And Ansbach is usually kind of last priority. So you can't expect that big bus ride with all of your stuff. If you're on the Patriot Express, we've seen the buses arrive at one of our main kasernes. Ansbach is broken up into about 3 main areas, but like 6 or 7 small kasernes.
Okay.
So they'll drop you off in one of the middle ones or at the hotel with all of your baggage, and then the Patriot Express goes on its way.
Okay. And so you guys went commercial. You flew into what, Nuremberg or Munich?
Frankfurt.
Oh, Frankfurt.
Yes.
Okay.
Munich and Frankfurt have differing pet rules, and you have to look into it very specifically of, are you connecting somewhere before you get to Germany? So like, what if your flight is taking you into Amsterdam? We flew direct into Frankfurt. Ansbach is, just for the record, Ansbach is about dead middle of Frankfurt and Munich. So both are about 2 hours away. And if you're planning a trip from that regard, they're about equidistant. So it just depends on, what is your airline? Like if you're flying United with Lufthansa, then maybe it's easier for you to get into Frankfurt with a pet versus Munich.
Okay. Who actually picked you up? Somebody from a sponsor, someone from the unit?
Somebody from the legal office picked us up.
Okay. With a van, obviously, and
with a big rusty TMP, and we all threw our stuff. And when you have kids too, like you're carrying car seats, like.
Oh yeah.
I mean, all of the things. So we were personally not shown 2 houses. They told us, first they told us they weren't going to have anything ready and we were going to have to go into lodging. And I heard about the plane to pillow initiative, and I personally preferred that. So when they said we have this one option available, you can take it or leave it, I was like, take it. Like, just give us because most of the houses are the same. So if they're offering you, and you don't have options between neighborhoods really, because if you're a certain rank, you're most likely going on Katterbach, it's called, which is one of the main concerns where everybody works. It's where the flight line is for the aviation brigade, or you're going to a housing area called Bleidorn, which is about 10 minutes away across town, but it's a small town, so it's not like you're crossing a big city. And recently, because of the influx of people, they've also had to start moving people to Illesheim, which is 35 minutes away, unfortunately. Oh. And all of those housing areas are stairwells. So Bleidorn has some bigger apartments for bigger families. So they would probably prioritize showing you an apartment on Bleidorn if your rank falls in that category to accommodate a bigger family.
Mm-hmm.
Those stairwell apartments are also for E1s to O3s. So we have first sergeants who live in the stairwell apartments, but there's one duplex neighborhood and it's called Urlas. And you have to be an E7 or above or an O4 or above to live in the duplexes. So you might have some options if you're an E1 through an E6 or an O1 through an O3, but it's just an option between this stairwell here or this stairwell here.
But the layouts are essentially the same, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you know
so when they offered us that duplex, it was like they're all the same. So just take it or leave it.
Okay. What do you know the names of just so people can, if people are looking up different areas and where they can live, what are the names of the kasernes over there? You've named like at least 3 of them already.
Yes. Okay. So in the middle of Ansbach, which is the German town, there is Katterbach, and that's a big one for where everybody works. So that's where the aviation brigade is. And then there's a base called Shipton, but a lot of people just call it Urlas because that's where the neighborhood is, the commissary and the PX. And there's one ADA battalion there.
Okay.
And those are kind of in the middle of the city.
Where the duplex.
Or they're very close together. That's where the schools are on Katterbach and the aviation brigade and a lot of the civilians. Like that's where you're going to go to in process is Katterbach. Urlas is just the neighborhood, the commissary, and the PX. And then there's an ADA battalion that's kind of attached to it. Then you can drive across town about 10 minutes and you'll end up in the Bleidorn housing area or the Bismarck Kaserne. And Bismarck used to be where you would go to get your car picked up and registered, but they also have the new ADA battalion out there and the new engineer brigade headquarters out there.
Okay. And is Bleidorn and Bismarck the same thing, or is those 2 different kasernes?
They're technically 2 different kasernes because you have to go into 2 different gates, but they're like 2 minutes away from each other.
Okay.
So they kind of get co-located.
Yeah.
The common speak, I guess, around here.
Got it. And then
there's Illesheim. That place was getting built up, and then they said Ansbach is on the chopping list, so they started moving everybody out of there. They have a flight simulator there that some aviation guys have to go to for training, and then they started moving people out there because the garrison commander has to fill 90% of all of his allotted housing, which Illesheim is just below the cutoff mark of like being too far away for people to have to commute to. So it's considered just below. So they are having families move out there. They're trying to put families out there who don't have school-aged children because that would be a very long commute to the schools for the kids. But so far, when people post pictures of the apartments in Illesheim, they seem to be very nice and they're doing a good job keeping their apartments nice. It just stinks because it's 35 minutes away from the clinic, 35 minutes away from the commissary and PX, 40 minutes from if you have to go and talk to housing, that's over at Katterbach. Like everything is kind of built to be around Katterbach and Urlas and Bleidorn. So
talk to me about any of the transportation from these bases. Do you guys have like a free shuttle?
They do have a shuttle, and people notoriously hate it.
Oh.
It's because of how the bases are spread out, you can get dropped off at the PX on the shuttle, but the next one isn't going to come for like 2 or 3 hours. So,
oh my gosh.
And because it's just so small, you really can go through the PX in like 10 minutes here. So it's hard to spend 2 or 3 hours at the PX here.
Yeah.
People do not like the shuttle, and it's hard when you're in processing and you don't have a car because you might take the shuttle over to Katterbach to do some in processing stuff, which, what if you show up on the shuttle to get your license and then you walk in and they're like, oh, on the 3rd Thursday of every month we close for training, so sorry, come back another day.
That's like a running joke with me and my wife, like the clinics over here, we're like, oh, yes. Sorry, it's the blue moon weekend of the 3rd. Yes. We're closed
and you
today.
Can't look up that stuff online because they don't update Army websites. So it's just like you have to show up and get frustrated. And
it would actually be, it'd be funny but not funny. Is like you put a camera right outside the
door.
of where you have that sign and just get people's reactions of, you know what I mean?
It's also when you show up, it's frustrating, or it might be handy to start acquainting yourself with German holidays, because a lot of those places you have to go when you're in processing are staffed by local nationals.
Yep.
Or Germans.
Yep.
That's part for new people. That's part of the SOFA agreement. Like, we, as Americans, we have to hire local nationals to boost their economy. That's why we're allowed to stay here. If those offices are ran by local nationals, then they have all German holidays off. So you might go on a normal day for an American to get a license, but it could be the Friday before Epiphany.
Yeah.
And
like
we have this day off in Germany, so sorry, come back
yeah, like
time.
this last Friday, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So
so a lot of people, I guess, because of the shuttle, a lot of people bite the cost and rent a car.
Rent a car. I was just about to say, yeah. And how has okay, you've talked about how you guys are kind of in the middle of nowhere. There's not a big population over there. How has it been with local resources in terms of like finding a place to get your hair done or nails done or a pet groomer or, just those little things you need off base?
It's just usually helpful to ask somebody who's been here for a while.
Yeah.
Google is hard to maneuver through, or it'll give you like 3 options and you try to call and work through rough German and it doesn't quite work out. But as soon as you meet somebody who's been here for 3+ years, they can be like, oh no, you just need to go here. This is super. But once you kind of learn those things, it is easier to navigate. It just stinks because you usually have to find a friend after being here for a while who's lived here and kind of knows the ins and outs. I have a lot of notes about resources, but I don't know if you want to jump around to that now or if you want to.
Okay, so we can talk a little bit about some of those resources that you have, but what I really would like to do is I have a cheat sheet for every base.
Okay.
And so what I've done is exactly what you've said. Because I'm stationed in Graf Vilseck area, so I don't know the resources in Bengalem and Ansbach and Stuttgart and stuff. So I talked to spouses. And I have an Excel spreadsheet where it's just like all the main industries, you know what I mean? Like health and beauty and pet services and whatever. And if you could help me, and I've already got
one. Fill it out.
Yeah, fill it out. Just the name. And I can find the, contact information and put it into my on my blog. But I'll send it to you after this. But if you want to talk about some of those resources while we're on the phone, while we're on the call, that's fine too.
The clinic, some of the big ones are, the clinic is very small here, the health services clinic, and then dentist is even smaller.
Okay.
So the dentist will only see active duty, even for like cleanings and stuff. They will, however, you do start to learn that you can try to request an emergency appointment if you're a dependent. But if you're a dependent who's a child, you're really like in the minority of getting an appointment on base with an American dentist, because they're not pediatric dentists and they have to feel comfortable doing it for a child even.
Okay.
So for example, my son had an infected tooth and I basically had to beg the American lady here, like, if you have an emergency appointment, can we please have it? Because I don't want to take him off base where they don't do typical, like they were at least going to numb his gums and everything. And I wanted to be able to speak coherently with, like, instead of being misunderstood out of German. Yeah. But my friend Cameron, her teenager, had to go and get her wisdom teeth out off base and they did not have a good experience. They had to get all 4. And it's just a different way of doing things.
I know all about it. Yeah. My wife did.
That's a good point for people, is if you have anything dentist wise coming up that even in the next few years that you can like move to the left early, you might want to start doing that before you leave the States.
Yeah. My wife had to do a root canal when we first got here. We've been here 10 years, but the first year, second year, something like that, she was recommended to this dentist off base, and she went there and did a root canal. And wasn't scheduled to do a root canal, but she went in there and they're like, oh, we need to do one. And proceeded to do this without any medication. And I got the phone call of her crying and I'm like, what happened? What do I need to do? What she said,
who do I need to beat up for?
Yeah. So we know the horror stories. Yes. I get it. But luckily there are some really good English speaking, just good dentists out here in this area. We live in the biggest city closer to the base is about 50,000 people. And you can find a couple good dentists out here that are not going to do anything crazy like that. So
Ansbach itself, the German town, is small too. So you really have to go to Nuremberg is the nearest big city. I will say, even though Ansbach is small, a lot of people can speak English still. It's just, there's just some sort of inherent communication barrier of like, they can literally speak English and they can literally understand you, but then like context sometimes is just lost.
Yeah.
So English is easy to find, but then like it takes an hour to get to Nuremberg. So a lot of people just try to find something.
Wait a minute, you're an hour to Nuremberg.
By the time you kind of navigate I guess I'm calculating to the Christmas market, like downtown area.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
by the time you cross through like the city and stuff, it does take an hour.
Okay, we're an hour from Nuremberg.
Yeah.
You know, like if you get on, what's the closest train station from you guys?
We have a train station in Ansbach, and it'll take you in Nuremberg. So that works out totally fine. We did that for Oktoberfest. We were able to go to Nuremberg and then Nuremberg. So the train station works out fine. In terms of the bases, so there's not a lot of German public transportation from American on-post neighborhoods to get you places. You usually have to walk quite a bit if you don't have a car, or it's all driving, like you need to drive to the train station or drive to a bus stop.
Got it.
So that's why people hate the American shuttle, because it takes so long to come back around, but there's also just no German public transportation very close to the bases.
Yeah, there's a city bus right outside of our base, but I don't see a lot of Americans using it. To be honest with you, I've never been on it before, and I would have to kind of look at it to figure out where it goes, how it works and stuff, you know, but it is there, but I don't know how many people actually use that. So
in terms of the clinic, back to the clinic, if you're pregnant, you will not give birth on base. The clinic can see active duty for a lot of things, but if you're active duty and pregnant, like you're still going to get referred off base. They can see dependents still for a lot of appointments. I don't usually have to wait. If it's a non-emergency appointment, I don't have to wait much more than 2 or 3 days. So it's still keeping pace very well in that regard. And then it's very hard to get appointments at Ramstein if you're not active duty. Like you're low, you're going to wait a long time to get referred to Ramstein.
Oh, you're talking about the medical center in Ramstein to like have, to have a baby or something?
Yes. You won't get referred there to have a baby. You'll have to just go off post to like a German hospital.
Okay.
Unless you're just very, very high risk, like they might make an exception for that, but it's just so far.
Yeah.
You might be able to drive there 3 hours away and have the baby, but in an emergency, you're not going, No. But like if you have a special, like for instance, women here who are concerned about something with going on with like their cycle, you're going to wait like 18 months to see somebody at Ramstein. So most people just wait to investigate that stuff until they go back to the States.
Oh, okay. Okay. Is there a hospital? What's the closest hospital to you guys off base?
There's like a German ER in town. So like people use that if their kid, is fighting 104-degree fever on the weekend or something like that. And then there's small clinics. So like pregnant people can go to an OB clinic, but it's not a clinic equipped to deliver a baby. So they just get pushed to like a hospital in Nuremberg or like the big hospital setup that you would think of with like ER beds and ICU beds and stuff like that,
right,
to deliver the baby.
Now, what about Regensburg? Do you guys utilize Regensburg for resources?
That's a little bit further away than Nuremberg, so I haven't heard of a lot of people going there now.
I need to look at a map again because I thought for sure Regensburg was closer to you guys than Nuremberg, but okay.
Let's talk about like sports a little bit because a lot of parents are always asking about sports.
Let's talk about kids in general. Yeah.
Yes. So CYS offers the typical array like soccer in the fall, basketball in the winter, baseball in the spring. The younger your kids are, the more teams there are for them to play on here. As they get older, CYS partners with other bases. I think you have to be 10 and above to be on the CYS traveling team that goes like, okay, you're a 10-year-old playing soccer in Ansbach, we're going to go play Stuttgart today. All of those games are on the weekends and they require traveling. And
I used to be a coach. I remember those long weekends.
The really pro thing about CYS here is since we're not big, you can literally sign up for a team like the day before the season starts. And those guys at CYS will get you on a team and make sure you get contacted and we're not on a wait list. We don't have to like line up like it's Black Friday to get on a CYS team. So that's very nice.
Yeah.
There are local German soccer teams and small German teams in Ansbach, but again, because it's a small city, it's like the same as being a small American town. Like if you want to get into something more niche like gymnastics or hockey and you're really, really into it, like people go to Nuremberg. That's where competitive teams are, and they'll drive.
Okay.
So if you're very passionate about your kids doing very competitive sports, people go to Nuremberg or they don't try to come here, because this isn't really a place. This is like a small town. Everybody participates in everything kind of sport venue.
Yeah. Okay. That's been a challenge I've heard from parents and things moving over here. Along those lines, though, with kids, there are a lot of things to do for families in that area. Is it what's the schooling? What is all like? Did most kids go to school on the base? Right?
Yes, there are German Kitas. If you have kids that are not in kindergarten age, that's like a German preschool.
Oh, okay.
But it's confusing because they call it German kindergarten, but it's really, for us, it's preschool age.
Okay.
So there's a big one outside of Katterbach that takes a lot of Americans, like they're built for the influx of Americans coming in and out.
Yeah.
The smaller ones throughout town are like, no, we don't want Americans because you guys leave too often, and it messes with our spaces, like how we give out spaces to people. That is very cheap. It's like 200 euros a month, and you can send them all day most days. There's CYS that you can sign them up for, which is like with different preschool programs or during the day care. But usually I had a friend who was in 04, and they paid like $700 to $800 a month to send them every day for half a day. It was very expensive.
Oh my gosh.
And I could be wrong. It could be a full day, but it was still like the same level that you would pay for at the Kita for 200 euros a month. They were paying like $700 to $800.
Okay, yeah, that's ridiculous.
There is the elementary school. The elementary school has child find, which for somebody who's not well versed in all the different levels of types of preschool programs, child find is identified for like, we've screened your child and we've identified a few areas where they could developmentally have some concerns, and they meet the criteria, so they can come here from 3 to 5, and that's in the elementary school. Then there's Sure Start, which is more rank based. If you're a 4 to 5 year old, a preschool aged kid, there's one classroom of Sure Start. And then elementary school starts at kindergarten, goes through 5th grade. Your child has to be 5 by September 1st. They do not allow exceptions, because if they start allowing exceptions and they never know what happens to their numbers, they could be letting in people who are there by exception, but then they get an influx of people who are, I definitely meet this hard criteria of I'm 5 years old by this date, and now we don't have room for you, because that's how small the school is.
Yeah.
The whole elementary school, including the child find and the Sure Start, is about 220, 250. There's on average 2 classrooms per grade. And then there's a middle school combined with high school here. They all go in the same building, but they have, their own respective classes.
Right.
And that school is also very small.
Yeah.
The high school has adapted to have like AP and online classes available to like kind of broaden what's available to high schoolers.
Yeah.
But it would be more like online driven than in person.
Okay. Interesting. What has it been like? I mean, your kids are a little bit smaller, but for people that have older kids over there, what has been their kind of take on just the smaller schools, not as many resources? Has that been a big challenge for the community out there, or do you hear a lot of complaints about that?
I do, but I also know just as many people who are willing to kind of fight to make it what they want.
Yeah.
So, if your kid is really into drama, there's not like a lot of drama or music or art. There's not like a lot of extracurriculars centered around those things. But for the people who are into those things, they volunteer like crazy to make those things happen when they do happen. Yeah. And they put in a lot of man hours and a lot of their personal time to make that available for their kid.
Yeah.
Because of the school is small, though, and I don't know the intricacies of how this works, but from what I gather, schools like Wiesbaden with just a ton of more kids, they're like the same as like not a D1, but like essentially they're a big time school with a lot of kids. They have more money for things like a drama club and like drama productions, and it's not, the point of success does not rely on like parents showing up to build sets, because they can purchase those things. But here you really have to, like, if you're passionate about something, you're driving your kids to Nuremberg so they can play hockey. You're showing up to build sets so that your kids can participate in the drama production,
Or you're becoming a coach so that you can actually have a team that does Yeah, I get it.
That's just kind of what it comes down to. There's no football. Well, they started with a very small football team, but again, because it's small, like if you have 2 to 3 injuries that take people out, then all of a sudden, like you just don't have.
Then there's no football
You
team.
don't have a football team because you don't have enough kids, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then and it's the same with the kids. The kids participate in like different sports because if you just do, one, then all the other sports don't get to happen. So it's like
yeah,
there's complaints and it's frustrating, but it's also you just put a lot of work into it to make the most of it while you're here. I haven't heard a lot of toxic teenagers. Older kids have it seems like they've been able to find groups
yeah, and
pretty
adjust.
easily.
Yeah,
I've heard stories of kids going to some of the bigger ones that have like a lot of civilians who stay there for a long time, and it's harder for teenagers to kind of meld into the military kid lifestyle or find a group. But because it's just so small, it's like, oh, there's a new person. Like, this is exciting. Like, let's
yeah,
figure out.
yeah.
So I don't think it's been bad in that sense for teenagers, but it
Yeah,
is.
it's all relative. I've been here for a very
Mhm.
long time, and I've gone to every single base out here, or at least delve into what's going on within the communities of the bases. You can be at a big place like the KMC and Ramstein and stuff, and there's a ton of money and resources and sports and things to do and all that stuff, but you're just always still going to find some people that are going to complain about something, right? And then I've also been to places like really small, like when I went to Baumholder, and that's part of the KMC, but it's about 30 minutes away, and it's very tiny. And when you go on the base, like for example, on a Thursday, Friday night, they'll have an event and everybody shows up,
Yes.
for like a bingo or like a trivia or something like this, And I'd go to that and I'm like, if they did this at my base, we would not have this turnout.
Yeah.
Definitely not. And you feel a little bit more connected, to people
Yes.
there. So it's just really all relative, based on the cards you're dealt. So
And that's definitely Ansbach. Like if you are into a small town mindset, like you can know everybody. You're 1 degree removed from anybody here. Like you can figure out.
yeah,
It's also like it can be nice and it can present its challenges though too. But like we just had a big Halloween event and the whole base shows up for that kind of thing.
yeah,
Like
yeah. And I bet the Germans love that type of stuff. I just did a video on that.
yes. So I like personally the small town because I like getting plugged in. I feel like sometimes in bigger situations, we can just kind of fall to the wayside and get lost in the sauce, or it's just harder to pick where you want to go to find your people. But here it's just kind of like we're all here. We can all see you. Like you can see, like, so like it's for me, it was easier to find your people because you look around and it's like, okay, this is it. So like, what do you want to do?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
No, that's the right attitude to have about it too. Because look, here's the reality. No matter where you're going in Germany, if you get stationed over here 3 to 5 years, some jobs like yourself could be two, but you're living in Germany, right? You're basically in the middle of Europe. You can travel anywhere. I mean, Czech Republic is not too far away, and it's a completely different culture, different language, different food, different experience, right? You can go to an hour to by train in Nuremberg and get on Ryanair flights that'll take you anywhere you want to go, or by train if you'd like. So let's switch gears here. Let's talk
Okay.
about some fun stuff.
Yes. Ansbach is south, so it's very easy for us to get to the mountains and anything south. So
Yeah,
Garmisch is very quick to get to.
yeah,
If you want to go skiing for a 2-day weekend, like it's much more feasible than if you live in Ramstein or Wiesbaden. It's easy to get to Switzerland and Italy and all those Austria, all those places south.
yes. Now you're
It's
talking.
harder. It's harder to get to like I've seen a lot of cool castles up north that I really want to go to, but it's just like by the time we leave from Ansbach, it's 6+ hours, and it's just harder to do.
Yeah, but there's
On
a lot of beautiful castles in this area right here.
Yes. My biggest thing about Germany is in this small town area too, because there are stores that I've never heard of, but when I go to visit friends in Ramstein, they're like, oh yeah, Globus. You've never heard of Globus? This is like Walmart in Germany. And I was like, no, we do not have that.
No, we do not. We don't either. Yeah.
IKEA is an hour away but I will tell you, we have saved, and I'm kind of ashamed to admit this, but like we can travel on a good trip once a month and it just comes out of our normal income.
Uh-huh.
Because we don't have a car payment, and I'm not going to Target, and I'm not going to Costco. Amazon is still kind of works half the time on base here. So like you just kind of have to go through one extra hoop to get Amazon delivered right to your door versus like waiting for it in the CMR. So between all of those things, like we just don't buy a lot of extra things. So we have more money to go and do.
That's how we are. That's how we are. We would rather, and you know what? So I'll back up a little bit. We've been here for a long time, but the first 4 years, my wife is a teacher, so they signed 2-year contracts, right? And so we had no reason to leave. Like we had great jobs over back at home, making good money. You know, life was good. We had no kids, but we wanted just kind of a little bit of an adventure. So we knew that they were 2-year contracts. So we came over here not spending really any money on anything but travel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because we wanted to spend our money on experiences, not on things. And we knew that our time was going to be quick. So, and that's my advice to people that are coming out, especially if you're coming to a small town, you know, and maybe you don't have as much resources and things available to you, like take advantage of the stuff that is available to you right there and what's close to you, right? Like you got the mountains right there and you got public transportation to take you to where you need to go, and spend your money on experiences, memories that you're going to have with your family, you know, forever.
And if you're introverted, like my husband, I think there's an inherent thing in him that's uncomfortable with not knowing the German language.
Yeah.
And there's an inherent piece of me that's just like, I can make a fool of myself and laugh it off like to a stranger. So if you're introverted and you're uncomfortable with trying to figure out the travel to all of like these places seem so out of your world, like just find that really annoying extroverted person who's like, yeah, let me send you all the links to the things that I did. I'll figure out all the hard parts for you. And or not that but it just gives you something to go off of, something concrete.
Yeah.
And it makes it, and those people who have done it are just happy to share with you anyway.
Yeah. Have you found your tribe and found your people to go do traveling stuff and whatnot? Like, was that easy?
Yes, and it's fun to have families that want to go with you.
Yeah.
The kids are like excited to be doing things with their friends, and you're excited to have your friends. I just feel like anytime you move, it takes a little bit to find your tribe and then start being like, okay, now we're friends, but do we want to like travel together?
Yeah, that's a whole nother level.
Friends later, you know, like
yeah.
So it did take a little bit, but it has been fun. We've been able to do like big houses in Croatia with like another family, and it's so fun for the kids to go to the beach together. And you know, when you don't have like your family that you're used to having in the States nearby, it's fun to have like your Army family doing those things with you. So definitely.
You got plans for Christmas break? Or Thanksgiving and Christmas break coming up?
Yes, we have Veterans Day is England.
Okay.
Thanksgiving is Belgium.
Okay. Where in Belgium?
That zoo, I don't even know how to pronounce it. Have you heard of that zoo in Belgium?
The zoo?
Daria Parter Perry.
I don't know.
Have you heard of Kinder hotels over here? Because you said you guys don't have kids.
No, I haven't heard of Kinder hotels.
So for people with kids, there's Kinder hotels all over Europe, and they're basically affordable family resorts. And you go to these smaller, it's like Great Wolf Lodge, but smaller, so you don't have to worry about your kids getting lost in the sauce in Great Wolf Lodge.
Okay.
They'll have like little water parks in them. They'll have indoor playgrounds in them, and then they serve you like these wonderful meals, and they'll like front load the kids' meals, and then the kids can go off next door and play in the playground and have a great time while you get to sit with your spouse or whoever you're there with and enjoy like a nice meal.
Okay.
You can go out and explore for the day, and when you come back, they have like a water park to play at or a big playground to play at, and it's just built for people. Like, this is where you can come with your loud children and feel like nobody's looking at you. There's a big zoo in Belgium called Paradisia, and it's built like a Kinder hotel. You get to stay there, and when you stay there, they let you wander the zoo after hours. And the exhibits are not built like an American zoo. They're more like natural landscape that just kind of blend into where you can view them.
Okay.
So we're going to do, when we travel with the kids, we like to do things that the kids will enjoy, but then like I have to have 1 or 2 priorities that I drag them to, but then find something that and they enjoy it more that way. So
for sure. There's actually, if you have kids out here, Germany has the most amazing like amusement parks, water parks, like family fun parks out here.
Yes.
Like it's on another level. You know, they have a safari park out here where you can go on a safari and see lions and giraffes and all types of stuff. Like
and I mean, like skiing is affordable for kids here. Like when you have kids, you'll spend a fraction of what you spend in the States, and you can put your kids in ski lessons, and The Europeans are like, nothing bothers us. Leave them here. We will teach them how to ski. They can whine all day and they're not bothered by it. Like, they're used to it. Like,
Yeah.
it's just really cool, the things that you can get your kids to do here.
Yeah. I know the answer to this, but I love listening to other people, especially that have kids, to hear their perspective on it. Is Ansbach safe?
Yes. And it's really nice because on post, people refer to it as 1950s parenting a lot too.
Okay.
Because everything is so, like, you can send, even when you live in the stairwells, like, there's parks in every little stairwell area that are fairly close by. And my 5-year-old learned this neighborhood within 3 months. So we were just, a lot of people get their kids like little phone watches that can only call like your phone, and then they let them go out and like you can play until the street lights come on, and it's like, you know, everybody in the neighborhood, you know, all the people you live near, you can see the park, and they just get like such a sense of freedom and independence, like being able to maneuver all of that.
Right.
And it's just so close by, like you can sit in your backyard or you can be cleaning up something, mowing the grass, and you can still see everybody playing. And
I love and I love hearing parents, especially parents, talking, because I've mentioned it a bunch about the safety of being here in Germany, but I'm not a parent, right? But it's so nice to hear that from parents, because I feel like it's overlooked a little bit when you're thinking about coming over to Germany, or like, it's so nice to not have to worry about, you know, your kids being shot at school, or your kids being kidnapped, or a stranger trying to talk to them, or, you know, just danger.
It's so cool to see, and especially German kids. Like, you'll see German kids, like 5 years old, just hop on a city bus.
Yeah.
Like very young, something that you would never imagine in the States. Just hop on a bus by themselves to get to school, and then like walk home after that. It's
right.
And like nobody bothers them. There's not like weird people on the bus trying to talk them up, or it's just like, this is just normal.
Yeah, it's part of the everyday life, you know what I mean? And not only that, not just kid safety, but like, you don't have to worry about your Amazon boxes being stolen off your front porch. You don't have to worry.
Or your mailboxes getting like destroyed because people are driving through, and like
Or even like it's funny, I was talking to my parents yesterday, and they're telling me about a new camera system that they're putting into their house because their neighbor has this kid who is suspect, and they're talking to me about the camera thing, and they're like, do you guys have one at your house? And I was like, no, nobody has that out here.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a thing where you're like, you need to see what's going on the perimeter of your home because you're worried about whatever. Like, that's, you know, nobody buys those things. You know what I mean? So it's just little things like that. Or like, you may have we have a big yard, and we've got the robot lawn,
the mower.
Yeah. And my friends from back home, like, they've seen it, and they're like, are you worried about people coming to try to steal that from your house? And I'm like, no. Not at all. Like, that's not even, it doesn't even cross my mind. Like, you don't have to worry about that stuff out here, you know?
Yeah.
Which is nice. And if you're going to be here for 3 to 5 years, it's nice to have a kind of a change of thinking and a change of pace in terms of safety, you know, for you and your children. So good points.
I would never leave if it was up to me.
Oh, yeah.
I've seriously considered getting a teaching degree just so I can get in with DoDEA.
I don't know why you would.
DoDEA teachers are one of the only, like, they're not bound by that civilian 5-year rule. Like, they can keep.
Listen, I don't know if I've told this story a bunch of times, but it's so relevant. When I was a young lieutenant, my first duty station was Japan, and I was just a single officer over there, and that's where I learned about the DoDEA system. And I used to hang out with some of the teachers, but I never went to the schools. So I didn't need, like, there was no need to do that. But they used to tell me all the benefits they get, all the time they get off, you know. And I started to just think about it. And then they said that they sign a new in Japan, it was every year. So after that first year, it's basically like you're PCSing again. Like, they'll send you home for free. You can send back a shipment, like a household goods shipment, for free. And I was just like, this is incredible. And I just thought, if I ever become a teacher or marry a teacher, we are doing this. We're doing
DoDEA.
This is the lifestyle to have. You know, this is the best teaching job in the world. There's no other teaching job in the world that'll give you all these different benefits and will move you over to another country and pay for your housing and, you know, all that stuff. They pay for our mortgage too, you know?
Yeah, they have it. I mean, their paycheck is competitive to what you get in the States, but they don't have to worry about housing.
Exactly. It's a livable wage. It's 100% a livable wage. And so anyways, that, you know, I got out of the military, and right as I was getting out, I met my wife, and I'm like, "Are you a teacher?" Yeah, yeah. So,
You want to do this Dodea thing?
yeah, exactly. So, and then that's one part of the reason why I'm able to have longevity in this job that I'm doing here in terms of content creation for military overseas is because we can stay here indefinitely.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me 5 years to build the trust with the audience, where most people, if it takes you that long to like kind of get the wheels turning, by the time that the wheels are turning, you leave.
One note about Ansbach schools on a Dodea note is it is not yet a 21st century style.
And would you consider that a good thing or a bad thing?
I have not experienced the 21st century classroom. This is just like my totally biased. I like a traditional old school classroom setup.
Yeah.
But I have seen lots of people on like different spouses pages asking specifically, is the school there 21st century?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they transition that way after a few years, but the physical school itself is not set up for what I've heard of, like these, open classroom styles. Like it's not set up to combine that way. So I don't know how long that will take or how quick that would happen here.
Okay. Let's go over some just last minute questions that I have here because we've pretty much we've been jumping around, but we've covered a lot. Tell me what you love and what you hate about Ansbach.
I love all the traveling we get to do. I feel like Ansbach is inconvenient a lot of times. Inconvenient. It's just inconvenient. Like if you come over here with an American, like a Honda, it takes a while to figure out, do I have to go to Frankfurt to see the Honda people there? Is there a Honda place here? I can what's the language? Like, even if it's not a military, even if it's not the going to the license place and they're closed, it's small. It's just harder. People in Ramstein, like everything is in Ramstein seems to be built for like, oh, you're a new American here. This is Globus. We have an orientation for you to attend to figure out what Globus is like and where everything is because we have so many Americans here. Yeah. Ansbach's not like that. So it's inconvenient, but it's only inconvenient when something inconvenient pops up like car work or a special referral. Like it's not like that. Once you figure it out, it's just like 90% of the time. It's, you know what to do, you know where to go, everybody's traveling. So I like the small town, but it's just inconvenient for the inconvenient things for sure.
Gotcha. Okay. What do you know now that you wish you would have known before you arrived?
The first thing is if you are going to come over with an American car and you have USAA, there's usually, first of all, there's a Frankfurt office that you can call. You don't have to call the States to talk to USAA, and you don't have to call London. That doesn't usually pop up very easily on the internet. You kind of have to maneuver through that a little bit. And there's local shops everywhere, even in dinky old Ansbach, who partner with USAA. Okay. So the one here in Ansbach has a direct line to Ramstein, who can get parts from the States very quickly. So you don't have to wait for months to get parts. I got a windshield for my big old Honda Odyssey in like 2 days because they can get that through Ramstein. I didn't know that at first. It took me like a good year to figure that out. Okay. And how are minivans and trucks over there in that area? More and more people are bringing them, especially the trucks. I've seen a lot more bigger trucks. The minivan has been fine for me. In the bigger cities, it's harder to park. Yeah. Even in a parking garage, the parking garages get tighter and tighter. But yeah, that's my main advice for everybody. I get that question so much, and it really doesn't matter where you're going in Germany. But if you're bringing a truck, you can bring a truck. Okay, well, let me preface with that. You can bring a truck over here, your big trucks. Now, the things that are going to get you, modifications that you put on your truck. You got to make sure that you are within the rules of the German inspections that you have to do. So that's one thing. And I've got videos that I'll put in the description that will help you understand what are those rules. So that's the first thing. The second thing is exactly what you said, the parking situation off base, right? So when you go to like downtown areas, even if it's a small city like Ansbach, it's going to be tight parking spots. The parking garages are going to be very tight. Those round circular parking garages, you don't even think about it, right? But on base, never really a problem on base. I would assume the same thing on Ansbach as well, right? Like parking spots are big. People can drive their big tanks everywhere around there. But once you start getting into the smaller cities off base, and then we didn't talk about this, but like the roads out there around Ansbach and the surrounding Kasernes, are they like 2-lane roads? Is it farmlands? Like, is it smaller roads? It's a little bit of everything. They have 2-lane roads through the city because we're right in the middle of Nuremberg and Rothenburg.
Rotenburg, yeah.
Um, so you have 2 lanes to kind of get through the city, but it's city speed limits, and then you're like on a state highway, which is usually 1 lane, but there's no traffic lights, so you can kind of go with the flow of traffic to Rothenburg, to Nuremberg. It takes about 15 minutes to get on the Autobahn. Autobahn 6 is the one near here. There's civilians who live in Nuremberg and Würzburg even who commute Ansbach because they've just wanted to stay in Germany, so they'll hop around for, different jobs.
Yeah.
Würzburg is about an hour.
Okay.
Away. So
that's a beautiful city too.
There's farm roads that you can hop on, and you just kind of have to go to the side if you're like in a minivan like me or a truck and you're sharing it with somebody. The parking garages with the minivan and the trucks are the worst, and that's usually the best place to park because there's not a lot of like on the street parking or parking lots like you would imagine at a Chipotle or a gas station in the States. Yeah. So I always look for a parking garage for the minivan, but then you just kind of have to hope that you can get around the turns.
Yeah.
And you don't have to abandon ship. But if you're just keeping your truck to like go to work, you'll be totally fine.
Yeah, definitely.
Here, so.
Okay, advice for incoming families. I know there's a lot of stuff, but what's the biggest advice that you can give to somebody that's coming into Ansbach?
Moving to Germany is expensive. So if you find out that you're moving to Germany and you do not want to get here with a big lump of credit card debt, then I would start saving if you can like 6 months in advance. And then you have to fight for everything. So, and it's hard because you don't know what you don't know. So like you have to look at all the Facebook groups, you have to look at what the Army gives you, you have to conglomerate your own opinion to know what to fight for. So like I only knew this to fight for this because of your page. I wanted to ship coats ahead of my unaccompanied shipment. Mm-hmm. And everybody on your page was saying, no, you can get these reimbursed or partially reimbursed. But I was being told by the transportation, like, no, we don't do that. We don't do that moving to Germany. Sorry, you're going to have to come out of pocket for that. So I just hoped that when I got here, I could turn in my receipts and they would reimburse me.
Yeah.
And they said, no, you needed this specific piece of paper filled out at your home station. And thankfully at our home station, it was a very small transportation office. So I was able to email and say, can you retroactively do this for me? Because they will give you this, but you insisted that they wouldn't.
Yes.
And they did it. And that was nice. But like, you just have to, sometimes people will just think that they know their job and they'll say, no, we don't do that. And you have to push them to investigate.
Right.
So you have to advocate for yourself and your stuff. You need to ask for every single piece of paper, and you almost have to keep an email chain or you need to write down people's phone numbers and names when they tell you something, because nobody's going to help you if you can't say, I talked to this person on this date and this was their phone number.
Yeah. Hey, and I'm glad you brought that up. And this is a perfect time for me to plug myself, because we've got a checklist that has contact information where you write in people's contact. And I know it's old school, but when you're going through a PCS and you forget, like, oh, who did I put in my phone? And what was that person like? Put it on the sheet on my checklist. It's right there. Then you can go back to that person and can communicate with them however you may need to. We also we just updated this 2 days ago. I now have a financial sheet that tells you exactly how much I recommend that you save as soon as you know that you're coming overseas. Right. And it's for civilians and for active duty. And we wrote down all the different expenses that we've seen that are common with a move overseas. And it'll really give you an idea of like, okay, this is what it's going to cost, and then we also give you reimbursements. Like we tell you like what you can be reimbursed for. Right.
Yes. And your sheet might do this, but it could also be helpful to go to the station, like call the people that you're going to or the people that you're at and tell them your entire plan, because you might think that, oh, I have to fly back to the States and it's not anywhere near my duty station, so I'm going to rent a car to get all of that luggage that I'm authorized to my new duty station. Yeah. But fun fact, rental cars are not reimbursed, but taxis are. But you wouldn't know that unless you tell a finance person, and I don't know if your sheet is that comprehensive, but like you won't know that until you tell somebody that plan who knows what is reimbursed and what isn't. Right. And then you can say, well, now I guess I have to get a taxi for like twice the price. Yeah. Because that's what the Army's willing to reimburse. But it's just things like that. Like you tell them your whole plan, because sometimes they'll be like, well, here in Hawaii, you have to stay at one of these hotels. We're not going to reimburse you for any hotel. Yeah. So look at the, like it just helps to tell I think to go to finance, maybe even on both sides, and just say, this is my plan. What can you tell me about it? Is it bad? What's going to be reimbursed? What's not?
Right.
Because it's so frustrating to think that you thought of everything just to get somewhere and have somebody tell you, nope, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And if that person that you're speaking to doesn't, you get the sense that they don't know, ask somebody else or talk to the transportation place at your gaining unit, you know what I mean? Gaining area, and just call them up and say, hey, I'm PCSing over there. This is what I'm thinking about being reimbursed. Does this sound okay? Like, can I get reimbursed for that? What do I need in order for that to happen? And actually, that brings up a good point. Like, for example, the new pet reimbursement thing that just came out like last year or something, right? Some people are I'm seeing online that are writing that the gaining unit needs for you to have your pets on your orders, right? In order for you to be reimbursed once you get over here. I don't think that's the case for everybody and all the on all the bases, but that's something that I've heard. But stuff like that, if you don't know and you're coming to Ansbach, call the transportation office or the people that are going to be reimbursing you, or talk to your unit that you are moving into and ask them, just so, because that's €2,000. $2,000, whatever it is.
And if you need to, like, we found out in December we were moving to Germany. We didn't get orders until April. But in December, January, February, March, I could have been, if I could go back, I could have been a nerd and like looked up emails for these places to say, this is my general plan, and give myself plenty of time to communicate with somebody overseas versus like not being able to call them up right away and get an answer.
Yeah.
And then even if it's just a very bare bones plan, even like one comment that they can make you think of, oh, I need to go and relook at this. And it'll just, because everything feels so out of your control sometimes when you're moving over here. And it's just nice to give yourself plenty of time to look at the Facebook groups or to email people and say, like, what am I going to be reimbursed? What am I not? Because you always think of that DLA covering a lot of things, but it just stinks like when you could get reimbursed $400 here, but because of this one piece of paper that you didn't know about, you don't get this $400,
Yeah. The military could do a lot better job of letting us know that. Only if they contracted out a content creator that could do all this for them. Anyways, okay. You've already answered the question. Do you like Germany? Why or why not? I mean, it sounds like you do.
Yes.
And you want to stay there. Yeah. The last thing I had on here was a culture shock story. And I'm sure there's probably been a bunch, but any funny culture shock stories that you got that you can think of?
I went to Playmobil is like a big Lego here. There's Playmobil Land near us, and it's kind of like a big outdoor playground with multiple areas for kids to play. And Germans just like let their kids go naked up until like 8-10 years old sometimes.
25.
And it's just like, yeah, it's like totally fine. I just love this because there's like feral kids everywhere, like peeing on a tree. And my kids would do that in the States. And people would be like, can you play? And I was like, these are my people. Like, we're here. We can all be feral together. Like, it's all fine.
Oh my God. That is amazing. Feral kids. I'm going to use that one. Thank you so much. I honestly, that's what I think of and I have not caught someone yet on camera. Cause I'm driving around, and I see weird shit or culture shock stuff. And I want to pull out my camera so bad and be like, what is this? Like, I didn't know you can do this. I catch grown men with their stuff out, just peeing. And they're not trying to hide, Kaitlynn.
No.
They're not even trying to, I saw this one guy and I'm like in the lane to turn right. So I'm looking left to make sure there's no cars. And I look straight and this guy's staring at me like this with his shit out. I'm like, dude, you're not even, you're not even trying to turn. I have this funny culture shock story about that too. I was in the woods out here, like going to this castle, walking to the castle, and there's nobody around. There's there's snow on the ground. It's cold, but I wanted to go out there and do some droning and whatever. So I went and did that. I was walking back from the castle to the parking lot and I see this woman. We're going to walk past each other. Right before we walk past each other, and she's kind of further away down. I guess she had to go to the bathroom. She just went to the side, pulled her pants all the way down, and squatted on the path.
And she saw you coming.
And so, there's nobody else around, And so I had to walk by her, and she knew that I had to walk. Like, what was going to stop? Then that would have really made it awkward. So it's just like those things, like. It's just funny.
Sometimes I feel like my kids are more feral around compared to German kids, but then also I think Germany does a good job of kids belong outside, kids belong, like all of your outdoor gear for kids here is higher, like it's good quality and it's way cheaper than what you'll pay in the States. And kids just bundle up and go to Christmas markets. Like this is just what we do. Like we're outside all the time because the sun is always gone, and so we're just all outside. And so it has been nice having two little boys in like the outside areas. Restaurants, huts with like playgrounds and stuff are made for kids to just go and be kids. Like
100%.
So it's been great for that too.
Okay, cool. Well, look, that's all I have. We've talked for about an hour now, and I really appreciate all this information. You're going to be helping out a lot of incoming families. So I just want to thank you.
Thank you.